Right, so South African Airways has just concluded a media briefing in Kempton Park. My apologies. Our reporter Mbalenhle Mthethwa attended the briefing. Let's cross to her now. Very good afternoon to Mbalenhle. We saw digging in of SAA's heels, almost imploring workers to come back to work, but being very firm about what they could and couldn't do.
Good afternoon, Nzinga. Yes, indeed, SAA has urged its striking workers to return to work. However, they say 200 of the 3,000 striking workers have started returning to work, and this is why they have started resuming more flights and flying out of South Africa. They've also spoken about how they will also have resumed flying to domestic flights, resume 2 flights flying to Cape Town, between Johannesburg and Cape Town, and 1 flight later in the week is expected to resume as well, going to Durban. And they are essentially urging workers to come back to work so that they can actually invest in the future of SAA. We understand that SAA has been buckling under a lot of debt and has not been able to make a profit since 2011. But to speak to us about the outcomes of this briefing that we just come from is our board chairperson, Thandeka Mgodusi, acting board chairperson Thandeka Mgodusi, is going to be speaking to us about the strike. You know, the unions have made a number of calls. However, you've come from the meeting with the Department of Enterprises, and you say that both parties came with a spirit of wanting to resolve the impasse. So can we expect this strike to be resolved very soon?
We are certainly hoping that we'll be able to resolve the strike pretty soon. The sense that we get and that I got at the meeting is that we're all on the same side in terms of wanting to resolve the differences that we have. And there is commitment by the unions, and that's why we're meeting them even this afternoon, NUMSA and SACA, to still try and think out of the box in terms of what solutions can be brought forward with the appreciation of the fact that the company does not have the financial resources that would enable it to pay the salary adjustments or the salary increases that SACA and NUMSA are asking for.
So the unions have called for the reinstatement of former SAA CEO Vuyani Jagana, and they talk about how the turnaround strategy they'd negotiated with him did not involve retrenchment or anything along those lines. What do you make of those calls?
At the meeting today, no such call came up, number one. Number two, the turnaround strategy that was being discussed even during the time that Mr. Jagana was here is the same turnaround strategy that we're talking about, anchored on 5 pillars, and one of those is OD. And that means we've got to have a fit for purpose organization. And part of that is the acknowledgement that there are more staff members at SAA at all levels, not only at the junior levels, than what the organization requires. The revenues at SAA have shrunk, but the commensurate costs have not shrunk. So we've got to balance the organization. No, there was no such call for the return of Mr. Jagana. And for that matter, Mr. Jagana resigned on his own. He was not dismissed or anything like that.
And what about calls? What do you make of the calls for the board to be removed?
Yes, those calls have been there. The shareholder who appoints us has not said anything about losing trust in whatever we are doing. Yes, the board needs to be strengthened because a number of board members have since resigned from the board. However, that's not tantamount to removal of the board. So we're doing a good job, and we continue doing what needs to be done, working very well with the executive, working very well with the shareholder.
Okay. Thank you so much for speaking to us. There you have it, Nzinga. That was acting board chairperson Thandeka Mgodusi speaking to us on some of the calls that have been made by the unions and just giving us an update as to how those talks between the unions and SAA are going. We heard SAA speaking about how they hope to resolve this impasse within the next next 2 days, and they are continuing to talk to the unions in order to resolve this issue. However, they do maintain that they do not have the finances to give them an 8% increase, saying that they would have to incur a lot more debt in order to honor this 8% wage demand that's being made by the unions. One other thing that has come up from this media briefing is that SAA will be going ahead and laying criminal charges against the unions over allegations it made about safety on SAA flights, saying that this is tantamount to slander, and they will be going ahead to the courts to seek legal counsel over that. They've also spoken about how during these wage negotiations, the unions have come forward with new demands, and they're saying that they'll be heading to the Labour Court to try and interdict these new demands that have been brought by the union. For now, it is back to you in studio.